Hello, and welcome to this short video series regarding security in the cryptocurrency space. I made this little video series as part of some academic assessment, and I felt that it would be a good idea to share my findings with you. So this video series will take someone who is completely new to the cryptocurrency space and give you a broad understanding of some of the pitfalls and traps that can befall you in the space, so you don't become like the many people who've come into the space before you, losing spectacular amounts in spectacular fashion. First up, I'm just going to say, and I'll say this at the start of every video, that this is not financial advice and that you should do your own research. These are two terms that are very prevalent in the cryptocurrency space, mainly because no one wants to get sued, and also because no one is exactly a financial license holder. That might change going forward with regulatory bodies, but for the moment, that's where the chips fall. However, I want to focus more on the second saying, that is doing your own research. And the reason for that is that doing your own research is one of the key ways you can stop yourself from being insecure in the crypto space. Doing your own research is not learning in chunks per se, it's more of a process of continuous learning. I've given a guide that you could possibly follow here in a 3-step checklist, whereby you can check the market data by going on the website of to look up cryptocurrency, see all the stats associated with it. You can, of course, check social media. It's not only the official accounts, but get yourself immersed in the community and see what they are saying about a particular project. Because usually, if people are talking about a particular project en masse, it usually is that they've all been deceived en masse, or that the project actually has some legs. Now, of course, you want to also read their white paper and their yellow paper, and if possible, see their roadmap and see where they're taking the product. This could be through, participating through forum discussions, listening to meetups, possible weekly gatherings, getting yourself immersed in a sort of more active social sort of way. I've included a more comprehensive guide that you might choose to follow in the references to this video. Now that we have some idea on how to conduct our own research into the space, we probably should ask ourselves a couple of important questions, such as what is the purpose of cryptocurrency? Of course, cryptocurrency is just a fancy way of saying, it's a bunch of ones and zeros that you can push through into a wallet, which contains a certain amount of funds that you've gained through some sort of consensus mechanism, whether it be proof of work or proof of stake or proof of literally anything. There's a lot of proofs out there, and by confirming this proof, you're able to transact through the network. Now, this is done in a very complicated way, which we'll just go to sort of gloss over here. So essentially, you send a transaction. That transaction goes to a miner. For proof of work's sake, let's just keep it simple. That miner will take the transaction, bundle it with a ton of other transactions, and try to create an output hash that matches the current difficulty level. And if they succeed, that block is then mined, and they get the block reward, or the general reward associated with transacting that block, all the other nodes on the network agree that this block is legit. They run back, do the consensus of all the previous hashing of all the previous blocks that have come before, including the newest block, and then they continue on to the next block, and then they bundle the next lot of transactions in to that block, and they proceed to compute that output hash, and so on and so forth. Now, that's all well and good, and you might not understand that. That's okay. I've included this little scalability trilemma triangle to try and make it more conceptually easier to understand what's going on. So usually blockchains or cryptocurrency is usually secure through their cryptography algorithms, through their one-way hashing functions, and they have a very decentralized base. So there's lots of nodes all over the world that are actively working to solve the consensus. The problem with this setup is that it's not very scalable, so you can only process a certain amount of transactions at a given time. Now, of course, there are things called layer 2 solutions that are coming in, and they're here, and they sort of solve the scalability issue while basing themselves off the layer 1, which is prioritizing security and decentralization. Now, of course, there might be further work in the future that makes this trilemma a thing of the past, but we're not exactly there yet, possibly. Now, you might be wondering why on earth you'd ever want to use cryptocurrency, because we've got physical cash and coins, and we've got debit cards and credit cards. We've got a perfectly useful financial institution. Why on earth do we need this? And that's a very simple question to answer. Basically, any third world countries that do not have such prevalent financial infrastructure should be able to adopt setups like this and be able to stay up to date. They'll be able to actively compete. But there's also talk as well about there needing to be coins or goods that are censorship resistant to, say, a government just dictating all the decisions. So that's why cash is so important, one would say, because it gives you the power and control and custody over your money. It's a similar story with the cryptocurrency scene. Now, where exactly can I obtain cryptocurrency? You can, of course, try to mine it if it's a proof of work consensus mechanism. You can obviously purchase some from a digital currency exchange, whether it be a centralized exchange or a decentralized exchange, and then you can, trade it to your heart's content. You can stake it. You can try and yield farm it. There's lots of interesting things you can do with it. But we're not going to go over that sort of side so much. We're going to be just focusing on the security side of things. Now, over this presentation, we're going to be talking about two very well-known cryptocurrencies. We're going to be talking about Bitcoin, which was created in 2009 and it's exploded with popularity. As you can see, I've included some resources that you can take a look at, which basically give a deep dive into how Bitcoin actually functions on a technical level, because we're not going to really cover that here. I don't want to weigh you down with all these meaty details that if you've never coded before, you might not be aware of. And we're also going to be talking about Ethereum. Now, Ethereum is an interesting case. Like Bitcoin, it allows you to do payments, but because of how it's been constructed, it allows for these things called smart contracts, which has led to further developments, such as allowing the space to create tokens, which are other coins that exist on the Ethereum network. We've got NFTs, which you might have seen in the media, which are non-fungible tokens that allow you to have a piece of artwork or maybe a ticket stub. And they also paved the way for decentralized autonomous organizations, or DAOs, which have a lot of different use cases depending on how the protocol has been set up. Now, because it's a proof of stake compared to a proof of work like Bitcoin. Obviously, you can just get your Ethereum, and then you can go and find a provider to stake it with inside a validator for the network, who will then start working through all the blocks as they come in, the transaction blocks, and eventually get block rewards. Now that we understand these cryptocurrencies a little bit more, let's just talk about wallets, because that's a very important factor when dealing with cryptocurrency. Now, hot wallets, once you have obviously bought your cryptocurrency off a central exchange, are wallets that you can use to receive those cryptocurrency funds. They usually could be taking the form of a smartphone app, a browser extension, a desktop wallet, but the most important factor is they connect online. They're always online. So it's really useful for quickly transferring cryptocurrency, interfacing with DeFi protocols. When I say DeFi, I mean decentralized finance. Sorry if that was not clear to you. And the other problem, of course, with hot wallets is that they're most likely in the sights of hackers because, like I said, they're connected online. So there are a couple of other wallets that exist in case you do not want to be in the firing line of hackers who are after hot wallets. You can have a cold wallet. And our cold wallet is just basically a hot wallet, but you've ended up transferring the cryptocurrency into the wallet, and then what you've done is you've deleted the wallet. So there's no digital presence for that wallet. This means that you now technically have it on paper, because when you generate wallets, you get a seed phrase. Now, the seed phrase is just a mnemonic representation of a binary string, which helps you to remember what that private key to that wallet is. This allows you to recover it at any time. It's just basically your ultimate recovery password. The problem is you should never share it with anyone. You should try not to lose it. And also, as we'll get to in a second, you should never lose the method that you are storing it on. So if you, of course, write it down on a piece of paper, be sure to store that paper somewhere safe. If you scratch it on a piece of metal, be sure that that piece of metal isn't mistaken for something that can be recyclable and it goes out to the bin. Simple stuff. Now, there's a third option, and it's a hardware wallet. Now, there are particular items on the market called hardware wallets that are readily available. Of course, you could store it on a different device, such as like a hard drive. But there's custom-made hardware wallets that are being offered by Tether and Ledger, and they can put your wallet into something called cold storage. So you actually have to physically have the hardware wallet connected to your computer, transfer the funds into it, and then regardless of what happens, if you don't have the hardware wallet, no one can access your funds because it's all stored on the hardware wallet. And it will only work if you want to transact if that device is plugged into the computer. Now, this opens you up to a couple of different attacks compared to if you just had, say, a hot wallet or a cold wallet. One of those attacks is the how willing you are to trust closed source software. So Trezor has open source software and a canary file, which basically they update every so often to keep everyone across the board saying that they haven't been told to modify their code due to government compliance. Ledger, on the other hand, is a closed source system, which means that you might not actually understand how it works. So that's just something to keep in mind. Now, the other interesting thing to keep in mind is that Ledger suffered a supply chain attack when I say a couple of years ago, I actually mean 1 year ago from time of this recording, whereby some of their customer data was exposed and individuals ended up buying Ledger wallets, opening them up, mucking around with the hardware, inserting malware into the actual hardware wallet itself, sealing it back up, putting the wrapping back on, and attaching a letter and posting it to these customers, saying something along the lines of, "I'm sorry that your customer data was exposed during a cybersecurity incident. Please update your Ledger wallet to this new wallet, and you should be fine." Now, that of course was not a good idea, because as soon as you connected that wallet to your crypto from your previously existing perfectly normal and safe Ledger wallet that you already had, you could potentially lose it. So that's just something else to keep in mind. On Ethereum, I should note, unlike Bitcoin, whose layer 2 is just basically transferring Bitcoin around, you have these things called RPCs, which are remote procedure calls, and these exist for all the layer 2s as well as the Ethereum chain itself. And it might be a little bit confusing to know which ones are safe to connect to. So I've attached a resource that you can look into to help get yourself familiar with the different types of remote procedure call points that you can use to interface with your wallet or to conduct transactions. Now, again, I must stress this: never lose your seed phrase or the method you store it on. I have a picture over here of this man. He lost about 8,000 Bitcoin that he had mined because he mistook the hardware drive that he had stored it on with a completely different hardware drive that was blank that he was actually throwing out at the time, and that's now ended up in council landfill. He has staged an effort through venture capital funding to secure manpower to try and dig into this council tip and try and recover said hard drive, because he believes it might be still intact. But of course, let this be a lesson to you: you do not need to go to this trouble if you just remember where you stored the seed phrase, or you still have the method in which you store it on. So don't be like this poor man. I mean, he's not going to be poor if he finds it, but you know what I mean. Just don't repeat his mistake. Now we're just going to talk about block explorers. Block explorers are an important part of the cryptocurrency space because they allow you to view transaction blocks and the transaction hashes themselves. I have attached two block explorers for you to have a look at. This one over here is the Blockstream Explorer for Bitcoin. As you can see in this particular screenshot, you can see the latest blocks that have been generated on the network. And over here is the Etherscan. It's the Ethereum Blockchain Explorer. And you can see the blocks and the transactions that have been flowing through the network. And they're going through quite regularly. Now, I should point out that there should be an important distinction that you should make between both public and private blockchains, because there is such thing as a private blockchain. These two blockchains, Ethereum and Bitcoin, are public blockchains, which means that they're decentralized, anyone can interact and the like. Now, private blockchains are a little different. They're permissioned, which means you won't be able to view the transactions or the blocks in the network. That's only allowed to a certain amount or certain cleared people. And this just helps cut down on the costs of possibly running decentralized cryptocurrency or a token on a network. So it's just something to keep in mind. If you want more of a in-depth guide to how to understand the difference between public and private blockchains, got a resource here, you can have a look at it. Anyway, now here's a little exercise for you at the end of this first topic of the video. What's a cool concept that you've learned about when you did your own research? I would be keen to know. You can comment below underneath the video. Just please be mindful in the comments or conversations recommending quote-unquote trading strategies or trading expert or someone posting suspicious links, because bots are rampant. Bots are rampant on YouTube. They can try and keep them down, but they'll just keep getting back up again. So they might always be around. So that's just something to keep in mind as you peruse through the comment section and you do your own research skills that you might not have had before. Anyway, I'll see you in the next video where we will be discussing confidence tricks, which is just all the social engineering side of the cryptocurrency scene. Hope to see you there. Thank you for watching.